It is Graham here, living the dream in January 2023 in Mesa, Arizona. This is day 7 of my Wild West adventure, and as you can see from the introduction card, guys, it is time for me to head back to the UK. I'm booked on the 8:05 British Airways Airbus A350-1000 service from here in Phoenix across to London Heathrow. I've then got about an hour and a half's transfer time connecting with a British Airways flight up to Glasgow. I'm booked on premium economy on the service across to London, and I'm booked in economy up to Glasgow. I'm a bit torn with this one because I would like to do a review on board a British Airways premium economy product and then bring you a video on which I think is the best, Delta, Virgin American or British Airways. But as I say, I've got a bit of a conflict because my friend here in Mesa has made a recommendation to me to see if I can pay for an upgrade to Club World. It will be one of the Club World suites on the Airbus A350-1000 service across to London tonight. So let's see what happens, what I managed to do at Phoenix Airport.
Hi, I'm Graham, and this is my wife Fiona, and we have always had a work hard, play hard philosophy. From London to New York, and of course the Caribbean, we live our dream through travel. And of course, the odd cocktail. And here on YouTube, we create our memories while living our dream. So come and join us as we share our memories with you. Simon very kindly drove me to Phoenix Sky Harbour this afternoon ahead of my British Airways flight back to London Heathrow. He dropped me at the Terminal 4 departures area where we saw the British Airways sign. And as I make my way into the terminal, I should explain that I had already received an email from British Airways. Yes guys, the most unreliable airline in the world, in my experience over the last few years, was advising me there was going to be a pretty horrendous delay on our departure. And this meant that I would have missed my connection up to Glasgow from London Heathrow when I get back to the UK tomorrow afternoon. Anyway, I headed to the British Airways check-in counters a couple of hours later than I would have if there hadn't been this delay. And as you can see, the British Airways check-in area was absolutely dead tonight, and that can only mean a couple of things. Either there were a lot of passengers transferring through Phoenix tonight, so their flights originated at other airports in the US. Passengers had chosen to check in much later due to the delay, or this flight was going to be extremely quiet tonight. I can only hope. To protect the staff on duty, I don't film the check-in process, but I can tell you guys it was pretty easy, so I was now on my way to TSA. Because I had missed my original connection in London up to Glasgow, they put me on a later flight, which if all being well would get me into Glasgow 4 hours later than originally planned, so it wasn't too bad. And yes guys, I did inquire about an upgrade to Club World tonight. Given Simon's recommendation, I was expecting to be asked to pay between $500 and $600. However, it was nearly $800, so I gave it a miss. I would be travelling back to London tonight in premium economy. At this point, I'm through TSA and heading towards the B gates. But I do quickly want to talk about TSA. I know there are many varying comments on YouTube about TSA here in the United States. However, in the years I've travelled here in the US post 9/11, I've always found the TSA agents to be very polite, very respectful and extremely efficient. However, not here at Phoenix Sky Harbour on this particular trip. From what has become extremely common in the post-pandemic world, there was simply no staff and long lines. My boarding pass and passport was checked by a pretty grumpy agent, and then I encountered a TSA agent at the scanners who was extremely rude and aggressive. Basically, he was yelling at the 3 ladies ahead of me in the line. I was talking to them at the end of a pretty horrible process. They were a mother and 2 daughters, very polite American ladies who didn't deserve to encounter such a rude and aggressive TSA agent. They were doing absolutely nothing wrong. Anyway, enough complaining. At this point, it was time to get something to eat. And there were several options on this B concourse. Right guys, I don't know if you can hear me, but I'm at the airport, Phoenix Sky Harbour. I'm staying away from gate B25 where we are at the moment. Got an email from British Airways earlier saying my flight was delayed, potentially cancelled. Looks like it is now delayed until
sometime around 11 p.m. local time, which means I've missed my connection to Glasgow. It does look like they've booked me on a later flight to Glasgow, so that, fingers crossed, is positive. The downside is I'm at Phoenix super early. Did get myself a McDonald's, not a KFC, which of course is my guilty pleasure, but that'll do ahead of my 9.5 hour, 10-hour flight back to London Heathrow. Oh yeah, the other thing to say is, listening to my friend, I did try to buy an upgrade to Club World or the Club World Suites tonight, but British Airways were quoting $780 something. So I think I will just slum it in premium economy tonight. But you know, that's going to mean I am going to do a little review later on in the year, Virgin Atlantic versus Delta versus American, and of course British Airways tonight in premium economy crossing the Atlantic. So let's get back to London.
This B-Gate concourse got very busy due to a number of American Airlines domestic flights all leaving within 30 to 40 minutes of each other. But by the time I finally made my way down the jetway to board this British Airways Airbus A350-1000 for my flight back to London Heathrow, it was clear this was going to be a very quiet flight tonight. Before you ask, not as quiet as my American Airlines 777 flight over earlier in the week. And as of January 2023, this is British Airways' most up-to-date premium economy cabin in their long-haul fleet. And you actually do get a half-decent blanket and an amenity kit, which was the complete opposite to my American Airlines flight across to Phoenix on Tuesday. And we did get a pre-departure beverage, again unlike American Airlines earlier in the week. However, in premium economy on British Airways, the choice is orange juice or water, while in Virgin Atlantic you get offered a Prosecco. And nighttime departures are always a challenge for a YouTube flight reviewer. But on tonight's flight, our pushback from the gate was short-lived. The engines did start, the flaps did retract, but 10 minutes later we headed back to the gate for a passenger to be removed from tonight's service. So for the next 2 hours, this was my view outside the window, while British Airways removed the passenger, ordered up more fuel, and then waited on a pushback truck. But on the positive side, tonight's flight was going to be a quick one at 8 hours and 42 minutes of flying time. From memory, it was well after 12:30 midnight before we pushed back from the gate here at the Phoenix Sky Harbor Airport. I remember turning my phone off before midnight to try and avoid another Vodafone international roaming charge, but I was hopeful that I would actually make my rescheduled connection flight from Heathrow up to Glasgow, because this flight was due to be so short. And I became even more hopeful tonight because the taxi to the runway was going to be very short. And that was Wheels Up just after 1 a.m. local time here at Phoenix in Arizona. And as we made our way through this scattered wispy cloud layer, it was time to sit back, relax and enjoy this flight back to London Heathrow tonight. And very shortly after departure, the cabin crew were around handing out these very tasty pretzels and a can of Coke Zero. Or should I say 2 cans. Next up was dinner. There was the usual salad, which I certainly didn't eat. A bread roll that if thrown hard enough would certainly kill somebody because it was so rock hard. And this beef stew with mashed potatoes and a couple of vegetables. The bottom line was that the beef was simply a couple of chunks of horrible grizzly fat. It was totally unedible, not just because it was so overcooked due to the extraordinary delay that we had tonight. The food British Airways were offering tonight was simply cheap and as a result extremely poor quality. But I'll give British Airways their due. The dessert wasn't too bad at all. I do want to compliment British Airways on two things. First of all, their onboard staff. They're always very friendly here in British Airways, and tonight was no different. However, they did the job and very little else, but it was an overnight flight and I wasn't complaining. Next, these premium economy seats on board the Airbus A350, they were very comfortable. When I woke up, I looked at my phone and it looked like I was over northern Canada. And as a result, I would have been asleep for just over 3.5 hours, which wasn't too bad. But as you can see from the moving map, I was actually halfway across the Atlantic and only about 2.5 hours out of London Heathrow. So there was no doubt in answering the question, were these premium economy seats comfortable or not? And as a result, I was very pleasantly surprised that I'd slept for over 5 hours. And given that I'd saved $780 by not upgrading, I was pretty happy with this flight tonight. And as we cruised over the west coast of Ireland, breakfast was served. I chose the full English. But I do think British Airways didn't get the memo what a full English breakfast actually is. Because British Airways translate a full English as scrambled egg, a hash brown, mushrooms and some bacon. Where's the sausages and beans, guys? Come on. Yeah, I think we're giving the breakfast award to Virgin Atlantic in premium economy. This wasn't bad, guys. I really shouldn't complain that much, especially as I ate it all. But the award for the most beautiful winglet has got to go to British Airways on board this Airbus A350-1000. Unlike so many airlines, British Airways have gone the extra mile and had their winglets painted in their corporate branded colours of the most beautiful red, white and blue. And I'm afraid, guys, it is at this point in the video that I've realised that I've lost all of my footage on the landing into London Heathrow. So you join me on the underground train at Heathrow Terminal 5 as I transfer between the C gates and the A gates in a bid to make my connecting flight up to Glasgow. And as usual, the flight between London Heathrow and Glasgow was absolutely jam-packed full. I'd also be given an aisle seat, so there was absolutely no point making a trip report. I do want to say that British Airways can make this whole flight connection things work in the route network, because for the first time in years my flight from London Heathrow up to Glasgow left on time and my bag was first off the baggage conveyor belt when I arrived back in Glasgow over 4 hours later than I should have. As I sum up my British Airways experience in premium economy from that flight from Phoenix back to London Heathrow, I do want to say that actually British Airways have got a pretty solid product in premium economy. It's without a doubt the most comfortable premium economy seat that I've experienced in the last year. British Airways, if they really wanted to, can make this whole connection between London as their main hub and the regions like here in Glasgow work. But given my experience over the last couple of years, they are just so darn unreliable that given we're going to do that business trip in Phoenix again next year, I'm probably going to fly out to Phoenix on Delta a day earlier, give myself a little bit more time so I don't miss the business meetings, but also using a much more reliable airline than British Airways. So if you were to ask the question, would I choose British Airways if given the choice? I think you know my answer, guys. Absolutely not. They were the only airline, as I thought, linking London with Phoenix directly, but clearly there was an American Airlines service, which, while it was a lot more reliable, wasn't a great product. So if we could just get the American Airlines reliability with the British Airways hard product, things will be pretty good. So in the next episode here on the channel, I'm going to be introducing you to a brand new series, Lazing in Lanzarote, but more coming in the next episode. Thank you very much for watching.